Hey guys, Hatter here. So I wanted to do a update video. I got a reminder saying that today is the 1 year anniversary of the first time we were running the Briefcase computer for the DJ Carner Robbers in Your House show. So I thought I'd talk about, what it's like working with a Briefcase computer for a year now, and the ups and downs, and some of the things I've learned, and some of the things that still need to be fixed on it, because it has not all been smooth sailing. But then again, building a computer in a briefcase was a crazy idea to begin with, and I'm still pretty happy that I pulled it off, and I can't believe it's been a year that I've been using this thing, and it has made a huge difference on both Wasteland Talk and In Your House. It has allowed us to travel. It has allowed us to do amazing shows. It has broken down. It has had to be fixed. I've had to modify it on the spot when we were at Wasteland. So yeah, I'm going to go through some of those different things and talk about them. Just kind of give you guys an idea. Oh, and there's the kitty. Going to go hang out in the window. It's also raining here in Sacramento. Like, it was raining most of the day yesterday, and then I woke up this morning and it's still raining. So yeah, but without further ado, let's take a look at the hack pack, the Briefcase computer. Alright, I'm gonna flip the camera around. Here it is. This is the hack pack, the Briefcase computer. So why don't I start by telling you all what this is, in case you've never seen it, or in case it's been a while since you've seen one of my videos on it. This is a Linux computer built into a pretty standard briefcase. It uses a mini ATX motherboard. It has a AMD processor. I believe it's a 4 quad core with a built-in video. I don't have a video card for this. I'd like to eventually get one, but my space is limited, so I don't know for sure if I could really get one and use it well. And it has, of course, all your standard hookups. HDMI is how we do the video. It has USB 3.0, USB 2.0, power cable. Everything's routed through the outside. So let's start with the front here. So we have the power button. You can see I just drilled it right into the casing there. Looks really nice. We have the USB 3.0. I had to hold it in with some kind of large screws there. Maybe eventually I'll pull off this case and do a nicer 3D printed one, but I kind of like how haphazard it looks as is, so I might just keep that. But USB 3.0 here. Also on the top we have a wireless keyboard and mouse. We have some cables that run into the machine, of course. This is its Wi-Fi, and we have a couple more USB 3.0 ports here. Plus we have an Ethernet in case I want to plug in that way. We have a little speaker, although the speaker's been having some issues. And we have, of course, the power for the monitor, and we have the HDMI for the monitor. And you can see it's running out through the side of the machine. I'll talk about that too. And then, of course, we have a portable display that's mounted to the casing. Everything closes up pretty nice. It folds, it carries pretty easily. Let's check out the other sides here. So we also have on this side here, we have, the only thing over here is the power hookup, because we also have the big huge power supply in this side, so I can't really do much else as far as adding extra plug outs here between this and this that takes up most of my space. It uses a 400 watt power supply, which is fine for what I have. Let's go around to the side here. Close that so we can see a little better. Alright, on this side we have a temperature gauge, so it tells me what temperature it's running at all times. It's in Celsius. Yeah, that's fine. I know enough about Celsius. It's the universal temperature anyway, all of the world. You know, not those crazy, wacky freedom units. You can see there's a big gaping hole in the side, so when we were at Wasteland this year, I had a hard time. Actually, just before Wasteland, I had an HDMI cable go out on me, and I had to finagle a new HDMI hookup for it. But also, when we were at the event, we had a issue getting to the sound, and so I ended up at Wasteland cutting this big old hole out in the side just so we could get better sound on it. Get it hooked up to the sound there at the event. And you can see I have a couple cooling fans here. So when I first built this thing, I actually didn't have enough cooling for it, and it shorted out my processor from getting too hot. And so I added these two little fans here that help keep it a lot more cool. Plus I 3D printed nice tall legs for it that are about 1.5 inches off the ground. And you can see underneath, you can see the fan down there that's just a multicolored LED. On the rear of the machine, I have two more USB 3.0s and USB 2.0 and a mic and audio plug-in, which for some reason I still couldn't get these to work right at Wasteland, and that's why I cut this big hole. But then I think for the final show we actually did end up using these. So I needed the big hole in the machine to get to the HDMI though, so there's no choice there. But yeah, I used to have a nice little like L-shaped HDMI hookup that ran through here and came out here and did a really nice job, but that cable fried on me. So this thing has not been easy to run for a year. It has done a lot for us as far as running Wasteland Talk and running the In Your House show. I mean, because of the Briefcase computer, we've been able to travel. We've been able to go do a show at like the Goat Heads bar for Wasteland. We were able to do the big family reunion show at Tooch's place where a bunch of people stormed our show. We did a show just recently at the NorCal campout right out there on the site. I mean, the amount of stuff we've been able to do with this Briefcase computer versus what we could do before we built it has been huge. We've been able to take, the DJ show onto Twitch and, built an audience there. We've been able to do multiple streams for Wasteland Talk where we're streaming on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch all at once. We've built an audience on all three channels. I was able to take this to Wasteland and record an entire show with it. So it has made everything easier, but also it has had its own complications. Like I said, the major things I've had to do was when the processor unit burned out on it, and I had to get a new processor. They replaced it because it was still under warranty. It should not have burned out that easily. And I had to, redesign how the cooling worked. And then the other major issue I had, of course, was the HDMI cable shorting out on me. So, having to replace that like last minute, the Sunday before we left for Wasteland. We were supposed to be doing the DJ show that night, and I turn on the computer and I'm just doing some checks on it, and the screen's not coming on. And I spent all day trying to troubleshoot it. It ended up being a bad HDMI cable. But by the time I got that figured out, we had already started the DJ show with a different computer, my laptop, and remembered why we weren't using my laptop, because we kept dropping frames and it was just too much work for that little laptop. And it's like, yeah, that's why we built the Briefcase computer in the first place. We didn't have an adequate computer besides it, not my laptop, not Bex's laptop, The DJ's laptop, well, it's used for DJing, so you can't really do everything with it. So, yeah, I had to quickly, like I said, punch a hole in the side of the machine and get it to work that way. I had to put it all back together and, fingers crossed it's going to work at Wasteland type of thing. And thankfully we got it to work there. But, man, this thing, it's like a custom car, or like a classic car or a rat rod or something. It's like a rat rod of computers. That would definitely be the way to describe it, because does it run? Does it function as a computer? Absolutely. It is one of my favorite computers I've ever built in my life. Does it run smoothly every time? No. Not at all. I think I still, when I turn it on, get excited when I see it first start to boot up, because I'm just like, yes, okay, it's gonna work, it's gonna work, it's gonna work. And there's, like I said, there's been times when the screen is glitched out and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've had to go through a number of different video programs just to get the right program that displays on my low-powered machine. I've had to go through different music programs. We've built our OBS setup that's pretty nice, but even that goes through changes at times. I mean, you can see one we have for in your house. We've been through 2 different builds on this thing, and then we've been through multiple different microphones. We've been through multiple different webcams. We've been through 2 different preamps, just trying to make sure that we found all the right stuff that would really make our DJ show run great. And I think we're at a pretty good setup now, between the preamp we have now, the microphone and camera we have now, the Briefcase computer running like it should most of the time, and the lighting and everything we have now. We've actually gotten a lot. We've improved a lot over the last year that we've been doing this, including the overlays that I've been doing, the flyers that we put on Instagram and Facebook. We've actually learned a ton just since starting both these shows, but also a lot of it from doing this Briefcase computer. So I would encourage anybody, even with the headaches I've had, if you are thinking about doing something like this, just try it. I've learned a ton from this machine, and we wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do without it. Why don't I, close it down and show you guys the insides, because that takes a little more work to take a look at. So let me unplug my cable here. Still got to get a new HDMI cable for this thing, but I will figure that out soon enough. Just looking for something that's durable, that's going to last, it's going to be able to bend to the side like I need it to, and it's going to really work well. So, closing up the machine right now so I can show you guys the inside. Let me set the camera down for just a second so I can flip it over. Alright, let's take a look at the actual computer itself. So, I built this little latch for it. I had to cut off the entire bottom here so that I could access the computer whenever I needed to. Because even though it's built into a briefcase, you have limited accessibility. So, I had originally put these big old hinges on it, of course, and then I built this little simple wood mechanism to lock it, and that's actually lasted pretty well for a year now. You can see we've got a multicolored LED there, fan. I think I can synchronize it to just one color, but honestly, I don't really care. It runs just fine. I'm cool with it being multicolored. No one really sees it. No one really looks at it. It never shows up on camera. It's not bright enough. It's underneath the machine, so who cares? And we've got also on the bottom, we've got the fan for the power supply. Now, of course, these brackets are all 3D printed. These legs are 3D printed. The fan cover on the side here is 3D printed. So there's been a lot of 3D printing going into it too, but thankfully I own one, so. Let's take a look inside. Look at that. So it's still kind of a mess of cables. I, at some point, want to order some custom cables to kind of, so they don't have to be so long, because I bought extra long cables for everything I needed to do, because I didn't know how long of cables I was going to need to wire everything properly. And I'm still sitting on those. And I had to label some of my cables so that I knew what ran where. And so you can still, there's still the blue painter's tape that's got the labels on them. So at some point I keep telling myself I'm going to rewire this whole thing and clean it up and make it look really nice. I don't know if I ever will. A year later and it still looks like this. So let's walk you through the board here. So as I was talking about earlier, this is the 400 watt power supply here. And of course it powers everything. You can see its hookup on the outside there, like I said. So of course I had to custom wire all of that. And then you can see here we've got this wood frame to help reinforce the briefcase itself, because when you rip out its whole bottom and most of its inside casing, it's a cheap thin briefcase, so it starts to lose some of its structure. So I reinforced it with just simple, like 1x1s on both sides to help it stay rigid. It also helps to mount the sheet metal on the other side. You can see that it's mounted to the 1x1s also, and that helps with it staying rigid as a actual briefcase. Let's talk about the actual more of the board. So you can see all of my IOs here on the side. You can see this is where the wireless keyboard and mouse are plugged in. We've got DVI that I'm not using, VGA that I'm not using. You can see those two other little fans right here. So I couldn't even really use these if I wanted to, because they are right there with the fans. You can see here we have, this is the HDMI right here, which is right now going out through the side of the machine. You can see my USBs, two of them stacked right here. They're using these little L-shaped USB connectors. We have the Ethernet, and then we have underneath that a couple more USB connectors, which are also using these L-shaped USB. Next to that we have our audio, and just simple analog audio, nothing big there. The processor, of course, is underneath the big old fan here, so I can't really show you that without taking it apart. The hard drive is this little NVMe, I think it's only 256 gigs. Maybe eventually I'll get like a 1 terabyte or something, I don't know. We haven't needed a lot of space on this thing, but as we make more videos on the go, if I don't, remove them and save them somewhere else, we will eventually run out of space. As we add more overlays and all that. But 256 for Linux is going to last me a long time. So that's its hard drive. It's still NVMe there. We've got a whole mess of cables here, because the cables that are the USB 3.0 out, I had to buy like extra long cables, like I said, just to make sure I'd have enough cable length. It runs on 32 gigs of RAM here. I think that's the max on this board. It's actually already maxed out at 32 gigs of RAM. So eventually I probably want to get a bigger board that allows more RAM. I do have space right here for a video card. You can see there that you could plug in the video card, but the problem is it would take up a lot of space here. I would need something that doesn't stick up too high, or I would need to run it with a cable that is an expansion cable off this, and then maybe mount it somewhere else. And then I might have to try to like mount it over here somewhere. I don't know. I'm kind of out of space with all these cables, so I need to clean up a lot of the cabling and get that a lot shorter before I can try to bring in a video card. But it would help with our processing power and everything like that. The case is all held down by 3D printed mounts. You can see them down in here. They're kind of hard to see, but I had to specially design mounts for the casing. It uses a lock screw on one end, so a lock nut and then a screw going into that. And then similar on this end that's going into the cable here, that's held down with a little bit of Loctite. So yeah, there's not really too much else to talk about on it. It's not the biggest, most, badass machine ever, but it does a lot for what it is and for what I built it for. And we've been using it for a year now. That's crazy. I mean, it spent a couple months down some time ago. When the original processor burnt out on it, it went down for a bit. So I'll be really excited in, I think it's like March or April, when I get to a point where this build has been running for a year with these modifications, with the new processor and the new cooling fan setup. I'll be even more excited when I get to a point where I'm not running the HDMI over this janky cable hanging out the side. I'll be excited. Am I taking it to Neo? Yes, it is coming with me to Neo. It's going to be a part of my hacker collective group that I'm going to be doing. This is going to be on display there, and probably even running some of our tech, because I have a bunch of old monitors, and I don't know how I'd be able to expand this thing out to multiple monitors. I would need the video card for that, so I might have to get a video card before Neo, just so I can get multiple monitors running with this thing. But yes, I do plan on taking it to Neotropolis. And it's probably going to stay just as it is. I was going to try to do a nicer, all cool, like light up casing for it for Neotropolis, but I'm not rebuilding it in a different briefcase. So it's going to stay in this janky themed case for Wasteland. You can see that I repainted the whole outside of the case to kind of give it this kind of rust look for Wasteland, and I'm pretty happy with it. I wanted to make it look in theme for when I took it there. And, I mean, it worked pretty well. No one really even batted an eye as I carried it down the street to the rec room when we were doing our show. But, yeah. So, yes, I do plan on taking it to Neo. And we'll see if I can get it to run multiple monitors there, because I have a whole idea for a setup at that event, and I'm going to need... Yeah. And I'm going to need a bunch of monitors and a bunch of stuff for that, so yeah, I'll be taking it to Neotropolis with me. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for now. It's still having some issues with the HDMI. You can see right now, if I just wiggle this cable, the screen just like shuts off on me. And it seems to be that just HDMI mini is just not as reliable as like full-size HDMI. And the cables themselves go bad quicker over time. So eventually I'll have to figure that out. Figure out a better way to do the the display on this thing. But that's what I get for building a computer in a briefcase. Everything's a little thrown together. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And thank you all for checking out the DJ show week after week and Wasteland Talk week after week. Both shows have been amazing for us. They've brought so much joy to us and so much joy to so many other people. They've changed a lot of things for us, taken us places that we may not have gone otherwise. You know, brought us attention as Wastelanders that we wouldn't have necessarily had otherwise. We were more well known this year than any year we'd been at Wasteland, so that was amazing for us both. And it's been an incredible journey, and I hope to keep bringing both these shows to you guys as we continue to learn and grow our audience and figure out what we want to do with them. And you know, it's been nuts. So thank you guys for continuing to watch, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all later. This is Hatter, signing out.